Welcome to Mortgage Markets and More. I am your host, Peter D'Angelo. I hope you are all doing well. Today is all about real estate data, and we're going to be looking at November of 2023. I know what you're thinking. Why are we looking at November of 2023? It's already January of 2024. Valid point. However, the National Association of Realtors issues their reports about sales data about 20 days after the close of the month. What that means for us is that I will be providing you a monthly update on that sales data, and it'll normally be at the end of the month. So we're catching up right now because December 19th is when all of this data was furnished, and it's important to note that these are all preliminary figures, and sometimes there's revisions. The first data that comes through is not 100% accurate all of the time. So the door is open for that. However, we will get a good sense of where things were in November. We can kind of get a feel for how that translated into December, and then we can maybe start doing some cross comparisons at the end of January when we have the December real estate report, which I'm looking forward to sharing with everybody. So yeah, you get 2 for the price of 1 this month in January. You will have 2 full real estate market reports. Before we start delving into the data and the information, I want to establish a few key concepts that will come up as we look at this data so that I can ensure that we all have the same understanding of what is being presented. First is the concept of seasonally adjusted. You will hear that, and seasonally adjusted means that the data that is the raw data, exactly what, let's say, the home sales numbers are, throughout any given month, there are holidays that mean there are less working days, which means less days for activity in the market. That plays a role. Obviously, December gets seasonally adjusted quite a bit. So when they see seasonally adjusted, when we look later on in the month, bear that in mind and take that data with a grain of salt, because the seasonally adjusted isn't an exact science. It's a statistical tool that helps to even the playing field as we look at month over month, year over year, because I'm going to throw up a graph over here, and you're going to see this is an indication and an illustration rather of what the seasonality of the real estate industry looks like. And you see it going up and down. It looks like a heartbeat. It goes up and down because there's a seasonality to the business due to holidays, due to people's schedules, things like that. So I wanted to show that that's why we have seasonally adjusted figures to help even out that playing field as we compare our information. The other thing we're going to talk about is inventory. I think of inventory, stocking shelves, and how many things are on the shelf, and now that's the inventory that's available. However, when it comes to real estate, is it just the homes that are for sale? It's a little bit more than that. It's a calculation when it comes to the inventory for real estate of what's the home selling activity looking like, how many homes are being sold in any given period of time, and how many homes are currently listed for sale. By doing a calculus of how many homes are being sold in a given month or a week, we can calculate how much inventory there is based upon the homes that are currently listed for sale. At this point, we can take a look and say that November 2023, existing home sales climbed in the Midwest and the South, but they receded in the Northeast and the West. And all 4 regions of the U.S. experienced a year-over-year sales decrease for the month. The existing home sales were 3.82 million seasonally adjusted. That's up 0.8% month over month comparing to October, and that's down 7.3% year over year. That's quite a compression. 300,000 not seasonally adjusted is the number. So just goes to show what we were talking about before. That 300,000 is the actual sales, but we're looking at it through the lens of 3.82 million in the month so that it's adjusted to seasonally match with the rest of the year. That 300,000 raw data number of existing home sales is down 9.6% month over month and down 7.7% year over year. So quite a bit of compression. For reference, the average mortgage interest rate for November at the close of the month was 7.22%. Obviously, the interest rate impacts people's affordability. And now we're actually quite a bit lower than that. We are in the mid to high 6% range, which is awesome. But at this time, we were seeing a higher rate of financing. So the cost was higher, less people could afford, there were less buyers in the market. And of course, November is one of those weird months where people are anticipating the holidays. We already have Thanksgiving that's in there that throws a monkey wrench into productivity and people's rhythm of schedule. So this should all be in the forefront of our minds as we look at these things. The median sales price was $387,600, and that's down 1% month over month, but it's up 4% year over year, comparing November of 2022 to November of 2023. The median sales price is not an average. It's the most commonly occurring number in the data set. So of the 300,000 homes that were sold, the most commonly occurring number was 387,600. This helps us to eliminate the outliers on the super high end of the spectrum and the low end of the spectrum, which if you do an average will normally give you a not quite accurate picture of what's going on. The inventory is at 3.5 months. That is an extremely low amount of inventory in the country. For comparison, a healthy amount of inventory is typically somewhere around 6 months, and we're at a little bit more than half of that. So as anybody who's been in the industry for any number of years, or even as a buyer in the industry, you know that there's not a lot of inventory at all in many markets. Some markets are different than others. Obviously, if we're talking about the whole United States, places in the South and the Midwest did better in November. So that's where there was obviously some more inventory. However, the Northeast and the West are suffering a little bit when it comes to inventory. NAR, the National Association of Realtors, does furnish some forecasting and some guidance as to what they're expecting. So I wanted to delve into that for you. The fourth quarter of 2023 is to end with a $381,000 median sales price. So that's showing a continued depression from where it was in November, and 4.01 million existing home sales seasonally and annually adjusted. And so that's up a bit from November. We saw some interest rate improvement in December. So stands to reason we're looking back now, and that sounds like it's right in line with where things could be. As far as the first quarter of 2024, they see a continued softening on the median sales price down to $371,000, down 2.62% quarter over quarter. So comparing it with the fourth quarter of 2023, and up 1.17% year over year. Looking back to January of 2023, rates were really heavily affecting, and there was a lot of low activity in the real estate market at that time. 4.18 million existing home sales is the expectation for the quarter, which is up 4.24% quarter over quarter, but down 3.4% year over year. So showing that there's still some softening happening. And if we were to do a look back on the rates, it will definitely inform us. I didn't prepare that information, but I'm willing to guarantee that if you look at what the rate environment was a year ago, that is going to inform very much what that activity was like in that environment. I can tell you from doing business at that time that it was an extremely slow and quiet start to 2023, while everyone was still digesting the massive interest rate hikes that had occurred throughout 2022. 7.5% is the average 30-year mortgage rate that they expect for the first quarter of 2024. In fairness to the National Association of Realtors, this forward guidance was provided as of October of 2023. So some things that they didn't have access to that we do now. First and foremost being the Fed decision to hold rates, and also the very soft language that the Fed had around that in December. We also have the benefit of seeing the actual market reaction now at this point to the Fed's decision. And then the market itself has been moving in its own way in response to the Fed policies and also other things that are happening in the world. Monday is going to have a more exhaustive look and deep dive into the mortgage rates. what the current outlook is for the short term and the long term based on what's happening now. But suffice it to say, that guidance may get adjusted when NAR issues their next forecasting, and then I'll be able to report on that. But we're right around mid sixes for best execution on mortgage rates today. And you can see that if you do a search of where mortgage rates are for the country. In summary, there's still cooling in the real estate market due to the exposure to the high cost of financing and continued affordability struggles. We did see rates go up to 8%, in some cases 8.25%. Now we're down to 6.5%. That's quite a bit of buying power now that people have. But until there's more inventory, you're not going to really be able to feel the benefits of that lower cost of financing. So inventory is going to remain a focus, and very likely a focus for many real estate professionals to help garner some more activity in a slow real estate market and a very low active real estate market. Super low inventory will continue to cause and exacerbate the affordability crisis, even with rates going down. I've said this a number of times, and I'll say it again. Just because rates go down doesn't mean that will prevent you, or rather provide you with the right opportunity to buy. Other people's rates will be going down at the same time. You will have more competition, and it's already shown because of the low activity in the real estate market that there's a lot of pent-up demand. A lot of first-time home buyers that now are stomaching the fact that they have to pay their student loans back again after having forbearance for so long. The bills are coming in from the holidays. It's going to continue to be an affordability crunch for many first-time home buyers. And then people looking to upsize or downsize, their timelines are very much dependent on their personal circumstances and their personal planning. So it's difficult to determine when we're going to see some more inventory. But overall, I think that there will be opportunity as the market kind of starts to roll and that the volatility comes out of mortgage rates. I know this is all about the real estate market, but the affordability is so heavily influenced by mortgage interest rates. And if the mortgage rates are higher, it's going to prevent people from placing offers. People are going to have to extend more on their budget for their housing cost. You don't want to be house rich and cash poor because you got your down payment to make. You got to pay your closing costs. Now you've got to suffer a higher monthly payment than maybe you budgeted for. These are all things that will play a role. So as we look at the mortgage rates and into 2024, if we can just remove the volatility. Last year, we saw them shoot up and come back down. I'll have more on that on Monday. But suffice it to say that we do need a status quo. And if and when we have a status quo, that's when I think we'll start to see the listings happen. Listings, in my opinion, aren't going to start popping up onto the market purely because of low interest rates. We'll need some time. We'll need some time with low interest rates. We'll need a stable environment around those interest rates. That's when we'll likely see some more listings and some more home sellers or would-be home sellers more open to listing their home and making their next move or just selling their property. Friday, January 26th will be our episode on December's sales data. Overall, develop a plan of action and stick to it. If you haven't gotten pre-approved before, I encourage you to do that as soon as possible if you're anywhere on the spectrum of interested in buying a home. Opportunities will still present themselves. It's not a guarantee that low rates will have more inventory, but you've got to keep your eye out and be prepared. If we've learned anything from the past year and a half, my clients that have had the most success in this market were the clients that were prepared and dove right in right when the opportunity was right for them. To be prepared is to really set yourself up. And the only way to do that is to get pre-approved and have regular conversations with your mortgage professional. Feel free to call me, text me, email me, comment. Let me know if there's questions that you have. This is supposed to be an open dialogue, so I highly encourage anyone who's interested in learning more or has specific questions to reach out to me. That is it for today. I will be including some source links if you wanted to delve into the data a little bit further like I did, but I appreciate you listening. I'm looking forward to a new episode on Monday that's going to delve into mortgage rate update as well as some important guideline updates that I'm very excited to share with everybody. So thank you again for listening and take good care.